Good morning, dear students. Today, let me welcome the 8th class students to this session of English-2. As you know, we have been discussing a specific chapter for last 2 to 3 classes. Today is the class 3. The topic is some special usages. Dear students, we have discussed about in the past period a lot of and moths and their uses. Similarly, in the second period, we did discuss about also, to, and as well. So, and their uses while speaking as well as writing. Today, we will also, in continuation to our previous class, we'll discuss the same chapter, some special usages, but something new uses of the same chapter. Some new vocabulary which we have been using for speaking and writing. And before understanding today's class, I would like that we should have a little concentration. Therefore, for that, please sit Siddha with Dhyana Mudra and with closed eyes have Brahmanath. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Relax. Dear student, let me again welcome you to this session. And today our discussion will be about some other vocabularies like fairly and rather. You know, most times we have been using these words like fairly and rather in our speech as well as for writing. Okay? And most times we are in confused when to use fairly and when to use rather. For that, we will discuss today how correctly we can use fairly and the rather. Okay? For that, let me write something on this board so that you can better understand. Okay? Just wait. Dear students, we use fairly as well as rather. But the situations when we can use fairly and rather has been mentioned over here. We use fairly when we feel that something pleasant or something in positive. Okay? And we also use fairly when we express our approval. That means we approve that. Understand? So, similarly, we use rather when we think something is negative or unpleasant thing. So, in that case, we use rather. Similarly, we also use rather when we express our disapproval. Okay? For expressing approval, we use fairly. For expressing disapproval, we use rather. So we understood here are two different reasons we are using fairly and rather. First of all, we use fairly when we feel something pleasant or positive, as well as when we express our approval for something. So similarly, we use rather when we feel it is something is negative or unpleasant thing, or when we express our disapproval. So let's first understand the pleasant and positive and negative and unpleasant. Pleasant or positive, we use fairly. Negative or unpleasant, we use rather. For that, an example is written over here. Let's read and understand. What is written? Tom is fairly clever. So it is positive. Tom is fairly clever. So here we think that cleverness is one kind of a pleasant thing, or we say it is a positive thing. Therefore, we have used fairy. Okay. On the other hand, here you see another sentence of this. But Peter is rather stupid. Peter is rather stupid. Here we are talking about stupid, which is a negative thing, or we think it negatively, as well as we feel it is unpleasant thing. So Peter is rather stupid. We used rather because we have used here the word stupid, which is negative or which is unpleasant behavior or unpleasant word. Therefore, we have used rather. So Tom is fairly clever, but Peter is rather stupid. So for stupid, we use rather because it is talking about negative and unpleasant. Here we used fairly because this clever is talking about the positive and pleasant thing. So similarly, here is another example is given. You see, I walk fairly fast. My walking is fairly fast. That means fairly fast we have taken as positive and pleasant thing. Therefore, we have used fairly over here. Similarly, on the other hand, but Anu walks rather slowly. So here slowly we think an unpleasant thing and which is negative. Therefore, we have used rather over here. So for negative and for unpleasant things we use rather, and for pleasant and positive things we use fairly. From both the examples, I am sure you did understand. Okay, so let me write some other statements so that we will understand more about the uses of fairly and rather. Okay, you understood this? These are the examples how we have used fairly and how we used rather. Fairly and rather, positive and unpleasant things, unpleasant and negative things we use rather. Positive and pleasant things we use fairly. Okay, let me write something more so that we will understand more. In our previous example, what we have written over here, we did write over here. From the previous example, we understood how fairly is used for pleasant and positive things. Similarly, how rather is used for unpleasant and negative things. Now, we will use now the fairly and rather in accordance to the approval or disapproval from the examples given over here. You just read. You just see. So what the example is given over here? You see. This soup is fairly hot. That means it is a cold weather. If you got a little soup to drink, then you felt that it is hot and it is okay. This much of hot soup is very good for drinking during this winter season. So here hot we have used fairly because we approved this much heat of this soup to drink is best. Okay, so suppose it is a summer season and you have given a cup of tea, a cup of soup to drink, but that soup is very hot. So in that case, that the hot soup in summer season is not approved. It is the disapproval. You have to express your disapproval. So hot soup in the winter season is approved. So we have used fairly. But hot soup in the summer season is not approved. Therefore, we cannot use fairly for that. So what we have used? The soup is rather hot. I can't drink because it is summer season. In summer, drinking hot soup is not tasty. Whereas in winter, drinking hot soup is very tasty. So we approved hot soup in winter. We disapproved hot soup in summer season. Therefore, it is our approval that helps us in using fairly and rather. Understand? So from this example, we understood how we approve hot soup in winter. For that we have used fairly, whereas we disapprove hot soup in summer. That is why we have used rather in the past example. Clear? So similarly, let's read the next example. What it says, you see, Mary is fairly tall of her age. Mary is fairly tall of her age. Let's say Mary is a 10 years old girl. Her tallness should be up to 3 feet. Understand? So it can be approved. Everybody knows a 10 years girl can be up to 3 feet or 2 feet or 3.5 feet. Understand? So what is the tallness? What is the tallness of Mary is approved over here. Therefore, we have used fairly. Suppose, on the other hand, we found Mary, which is a 10 years old girl, is 6 feet taller. Then in that case, we don't approve that. We disapprove that. Therefore, in that case, we can use rather. Instead, see, Mary is rather tall of her age. What is her age? In accordance to that age, she is more taller. Instead, so here, in this, Mary is fairly tall of her age. That means here we have approved where we know that Mary is a certain aged girl and how much she is taller is okay. Every boy and girl, tallness is in this age is same. So we have approved her tallness. So we have used fairly, whereas we disapproved her tallness during her this age. So when we approve something, we use fairly. When we disapprove, we use rather. So we understood the use of fairly and rather. With these examples, when we understood when we have pleasant or positive things, we use fairly. When we have unpleasant and negative things, we use rather. Similarly, we also understood when we express our approval, we use fairly. When we express our disapproval, we use rather from those examples we discussed now. Understood? So, let's understand more with this exercise today. And today's exercise will be of Today's exercise is 23. Let's understand the exercise 23 and understand more things about the use of fairly and rather today in today's class. Okay? For that, let me write something over here so that we will discuss and clearly understand the use of fairly and rather in accordance to these rules given over here. How pleasant and positive uses fairly, how unpleasant and negative uses rather, how approval uses fairly, how disapproval uses rather through this exercise. Okay, let me write them on the board so that we will have clear understanding about their uses. Dear students, let's understand now the exercise 22. Exercise 22, what instruction it gives us, let's understand. What it says, put either fairly or rather in the blanks. Here you see, blanks have been given in all those statements. Blank spaces are available. We have to insert either fairly or rather in the blank spaces over here in this exercise. Some of the sentences of this exercise 23 is written over here. Still there are some more statements are still available. We will discuss later on after this. Okay? So, as we know that when we think something is pleasant and positive, we use fairly. When we think that something is negative or unpleasant thing, we use rather. Similarly, when we have the approval, when we express our approval, that means we think it is good, then we use fairly. When we express our disapproval, that means we think that it is not good, it is not correct. So we express our disapproval. In that case, we use rather. So according to those instructions, the rules we understood for using fairly and rather correctly, we understood. In accordance to them, let's fill in these blank spaces in the given sentences. Okay? So now let's understand the first sentence. This exercise is dash easy. This exercise is dash easy. You will be able to do it. So here what we think it is pleasant thing, we think it is positive, and also we can express our approval for this. Therefore what we should write over here? We should write the exercise is fairly easy. The exercise is fairly easy, and you will be able to do it. It is positive. It is pleasant thing. It is our expressing approval. Understand? Therefore, we have used fairly over here in this space. So similarly, next see the number 2. What it says? It says, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. It will be dash difficult. When we think of difficulty, we take it negatively, and it is unpleasant thing, and we express our disapproval. In that case, forget about disapproval. Here we feel it is negative and unpleasant thing, so we can use rather. So I'm afraid. It will be rather difficult. Okay? Understand? Let's understand number 3. I know him dash well. When we think of well, when we express well, it is what pleasant thing and positive thing. Therefore, we can use fairly well. So I know him fairly well. Clear? So similarly, let's come to number 4. The room is dash untidy. Untidy means not in order, disorder. When somebody will look at your room, when the things, the items, the utensils or your dresses or everything, books are not in order in your room, somebody will feel it negative and unpleasant. In that case, what we will use? The room is rather untidy. The room is rather untidy. Understand? Because it expresses unpleasant and negative. Clear? So similarly, let's come to 5. Your homework was dash good this week. So when the word comes good, then automatically pleasant and positive things come to our mind. So in that case, we cannot use rather, we should use fairly. Your homework was fairly good this week. Okay? So similarly, next come, the room looks dash clean. When it is clean, not untidy, as we discussed before, for that we used rather. Here, it is clean, means it gives us positive thinking and pleasant. Therefore, we can use fairly clean. The room looks fairly clean. Okay? Understood? Are you understanding the use of rather and fairly? When we think of positive and pleasant, we use fairly. When we think negative and unpleasant, we use rather. When we express approval, we use fairly. When we express disapproval, we use rather. This is the instruction given to us for correct use of fairly and rather in our speech, in our writing, etc. Okay, so similarly, look at the number 7. What it says? The food was dash badly cooked. Here is the word badly cooked is expressing the negative and unpleasant thing. So in that case, we cannot use fairly. We can use rather. The food was rather badly cooked. Understand? That expresses negative or unpleasant thing. Understand? Now we are discussing exercise 23. And several of such statements of this exercise 23 we understood and we have inserted fairly and rather in their appropriate places in accordance to the rule we did understand. Okay, so now there are some other such statements available in this exercise. Let's write and understand and use fairly and rather appropriately based on the rules given to us. Okay, you understood this? 1 to 7. Then we will start from 8 onwards. Okay, let me write. Now here some other such statements of exercise 23 is given over here where which have blank spaces and we have to fill in them using either fairly or rather in accordance to the rules, the instructions we understood about pleasant or positive in one hand, on the other hand unpleasant or negative. Similarly, approval or disapproval of our views. Okay, so let's understand number 8. Your hands look dash dirty. Your hands look dash dirty. Dirty means what? Do you think it is pleasant thing? Do you think it is positive? No. When this word comes dirty, we think it is negative. We think it is negative and unpleasant thing. Therefore, we have to use rather. So your hands look rather dirty. Understand? So similarly, number 9, the bread is dash stale. Stale means not good to eat, rotten, it is damaged. Okay, so in that case, when it comes stale or damaged or not good to eat, in that case, can we use fairly? It is negative, it is unpleasant. Therefore, we can use rather. The bread is rather stale. Similarly, you see number 10. What is the matter? What is the matter? You look dash tired this morning. What is the matter? You look dash tired this morning. So when we talk about tiredness, then in that case we can use, we think it is unpleasant and negative thing. Therefore we can use rather. What is the matter? You look rather tired this morning. What is the matter? You look rather tired this morning. Understand? So due to this tired, we used rather because this is expressing unpleasant and negative thing. Okay? So similarly, next is 11. I must buy a new hat. I must buy a new cap. Understand? Because this one is dash old fashioned. Old fashioned means when something getting old fashioned, we don't like it. That is not our positive thinking. We think it negatively and which is unpleasant to us. Therefore, in that case, when something is unpleasant and negative and we have disapproval for that, then what we use? We use rather. I must buy a new hat. This one is rather old fashioned. Therefore, this is, we have used rather because it expresses old fashioned, is expressing the unpleasant and negative things. Clear? So similarly, come to the number 12. Can you carry it? Somebody is asking, showing you a box, can you carry it? Okay, so when you see, I am afraid it's dash heavy, which I am unable to carry this. Therefore, in that case, what we use, which we feel unpleasant and negative, so we can use rather over here. Can you carry it? I am afraid it's rather heavy. It's rather heavy. We cannot say it's fairly heavy. That means we cannot have our approval. When we express our inability that I cannot carry, we express that it's rather heavy. That means I can't carry it. Okay? So when it expresses unpleasant or negative, we use rather. When it expresses pleasant and positive and have our approval, we use fairly there in those statements. Okay? There are still some sentences available, one or two. Let's discuss from this exercise 23. Let me write on the board. Okay? You understood this? Very good. Here you see, we have another two statements from the same exercise which have blank spaces where we have to insert, we have to fill these blank spaces using either fairly or rather in accordance to our understanding of their uses. Now let's understand again. It is less difficult to learn new things when you are old. When someone is old, learning new things becoming normally difficult for him and her. So, when it is a difficult thing, we think it is negatively, we think it is unpleasant thing, so therefore we can use rather. It is rather difficult to learn new things when you are old. Okay, so next see number 14. This pencil seems dash sharp. Normally what happens? When we use a pencil, we sharpen our pencil so that we can have our drawings beautifully. Instead, when our pencil is sharpened or sharp, it is pleasant thing. We approve that our pencil should be sharp before drawing, before writing any diagrams, trigonometry diagrams or some other diagrams. So in that case, pencil should be sharp, and when our pencil is sharp, it is pleasant and positive. When it is not sharp, it is unpleasant, or you can say it is negative. Therefore, in that case, when it is sharp, and for a student, a sharp pencil is very important, and it is positive in way. Therefore, we can use fair. So this pencil seems fairly sharp. That means we approve this sharpness of this pencil so that we can draw our drawings well. Understand? Therefore, we have used fairly. So students, today we understood when to use fairly and when to use rather in the exercise, and the rules with examples we understood today. And in next class, we will discuss again about this fairly with some more rules and other exercises. That means exercise 24 we will discuss in the next video with more understanding about the use of fairly and rather. Okay? And in today's class, we understood how we use fairly for pleasant and positive things, and we use rather for unpleasant and negative things, negative thinkings. Similarly, how we use fairly when we have approval, we express our approval, and we use rather when we express our disapproval. So based on those rules, we understood this exercise today, exercise 23. Next class, we will understand something more about the use of fairly and rather. Besides that, we will also understand exercise 24. And for today, only this much. Thank you. If any misunderstandings, please clarify this in your doubt clearance classes, and you are very free to call me personally so that I will try to clarify all your doubts. Okay? And for today, only this much. Thank you. God bless you.